In a chic Chicago penthouse, Lia Carter, a talented designer, receives a luxurious gift from her mother-in-law, a shiny black Porsche. But joy quickly gives way to anxiety. There is a deadly trap behind the wheel. Will Lia be able to uncover the truth without destroying her family and find justice through legal means? In the heart of Chicago's bustling loop, Lia Carter, a 32-year-old graphic designer, sat at her sleek desk in a high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. The golden hues of the setting sun spilled across her workspace, catching the auburn strands of her hair and casting a warm glow over her focused expression. Her stylist danced across a graphic tablet, perfecting the final touches of a logo for a major client. The deadline loomed, but Lia thrived under pressure. Her workspace a harmonious blend of order and creative chaos, sketchbooks, color swatches, and a single potted plant adding life to the minimalist setup. The faint jangle of keys broke her concentration. The front door swung open, and her husband, Ethan Wright, stepped inside. At 35, Ethan was a rising star in the financial world, a sales manager whose charisma and work ethic had earned him respect at his firm. His broad shoulders slumped slightly, betraying the weight of a long day. "Home at last," he called, his voice tinged with exhaustion as he tossed his jacket over a chair. Lia spun in her chair, her green eyes lighting up. "Hey you, rough day." Ethan loosened his tie and sank onto the plush gray sofa, running a hand through his dark hair. The usual 3 client pitches, a team meeting, and a stack of reports that could double as a doorstop. "You, almost done with this logo," Lia said, gesturing to her tablet with a proud smile. "A few more tweaks, and I'm sending it off tomorrow." Their life together was a carefully balanced dance of ambition and affection. Married for 4 years, they'd met at a mutual friend's art gallery opening, where Ethan's earnest charm had won Lia over, and her sharp wit and creativity had captivated him. They dreamed of starting a family someday, but for now, their careers took center stage. Their apartment, with its sleek furniture and stunning view of Lake Michigan, was a testament to their shared success. But one shadow loomed over their harmony: Ethan's mother, Margaret Wright. At 60, Margaret was a formidable woman, a widow whose elegance masked a razor-sharp intellect and an iron will. Since her husband's death a decade ago, Ethan had become the center of her world, and she made no secret of her belief that no woman could ever be worthy of her only son. From the moment Lia entered Ethan's life, Margaret's politeness had been laced with subtle barbs. Comments about Lia's unconventional career or her casual style, always delivered with a saccharine smile. "Oh, by the way," Ethan said casually, pouring himself a glass of water from the kitchen island. "Mom called earlier. She's got something special planned for your birthday next week." Lia's stomach tightened, but she forced a smile. "A surprise from Margaret? That's thoughtful." Her voice carried a faint edge, though she hoped Ethan didn't notice. Margaret's thoughtfulness always came with strings attached. Last year, she'd gifted Lia an expensive scarf, beautiful, but in a shade of beige that clashed with everything Lia owned, accompanied by a remark about how it might elevate her wardrobe. Lia had learned to brace herself for Margaret's gestures, each one a carefully crafted test. "She says it's a big deal," Ethan added, his tone hopeful. "Maybe she's trying to get closer to you." Lia bit her lip, suppressing a sigh. Ethan adored his mother and saw her controlling nature as overprotective love. It was one of his most endearing traits, his ability to see the best in people, but it also blinded him to Margaret's manipulations. "Maybe," Lia said, her voice neutral. "Did she drop any hints?" "Nope. Just said it'll blow you away." Ethan grinned, oblivious to the unease flickering across Lia's face. Lia turned back to her tablet, her fingers hovering over the screen. The idea of a big gift from Margaret sent a shiver down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Margaret had planned wasn't meant to bring them closer. It was meant to assert control. As Ethan disappeared into the bedroom to change, Lia stared out at the Chicago skyline, the city lights beginning to twinkle against the deepening dusk. Her birthday was supposed to be a celebration, a chance to bask in the love of her husband and friends. But now, a knot of dread settled in her chest. Margaret's surprises were never just gifts. They were power plays, designed to remind Lia of her place. She took a deep breath, pushing the thought aside. She had a deadline to meet, and she refused to let Margaret's shadow derail her focus. But as she resumed her work, the faint hum of unease lingered, like a distant storm gathering on the horizon. The week following Lia Carter's 33rd birthday passed in a blur of work and lingering unease. The black Porsche Cayenne sat untouched in the underground parking garage of their Chicago high-rise, its sleek form a constant reminder of Margaret Wright's enigmatic gift. Lia, now 33, couldn't bring herself to drive it. Each time Ethan, her 35-year-old husband, asked why, she deflected with vague excuses. My Honda's more practical for errands, or I'm just not used to something so fancy. The truth was heavier. She didn't trust the car, or the woman who'd given it to her. Lia's days were consumed with finalizing her graphic design project, but at night, her thoughts circled back to the Porsche. Margaret's history of veiled hostility made the extravagant gift feel like a Trojan horse, beautiful but dangerous. Lia's intuition, honed by years of reading clients' unspoken cues, screamed that something was wrong. She needed answers, but she dreaded the rift it might cause with Ethan, who still saw his mother's actions through a lens of filial devotion. One evening, with Ethan delayed at a client dinner, Lia found her opportunity. The apartment was quiet, the Chicago skyline twinkling beyond the windows. She grabbed the Porsche's keys, her heart pounding with a mix of determination and apprehension. Descending to the parking garage, she approached the car, its black exterior gleaming under the fluorescent lights like a predator lying in wait. She glanced around, ensuring no security cameras were trained on her. Not that she expected Margaret to go that far, but caution felt warranted. Sliding into the driver's seat, Lia was enveloped by the scent of premium leather and the faint hum of luxury. The interior was pristine, every detail screaming wealth. Polished wood accents, a digital dashboard, heated seats. But when she inserted the key and started the engine, a subtle vibration pulsed through the steering wheel, accompanied by a faint, irregular hum. Lia's brow furrowed. She wasn't a car expert, but she'd driven enough rentals to know this wasn't the smooth purr of a new luxury vehicle. Leaning forward, she studied the dashboard's touchscreen. The navigation system blinked to life, and her breath caught when she saw the user profile, Margaret Wright. Why would Margaret's name be programmed into a car supposedly custom-ordered for Lia? Driven by a mix of curiosity and dread, Lia tapped into the navigation history. The screen displayed a list of addresses: her and Ethan's apartment, Ethan's office, a high-end boutique in the Gold Coast, and a country club Margaret frequented. Lia's unease deepened. This wasn't a blank slate. It was a car already marked by Margaret's presence. Her fingers trembled as she dug deeper into the settings. A menu labeled Vehicle Tracking caught her eye. It was enabled, set to send real-time location data to a linked smartphone app under the account. Right? Lia's pulse quickened. She scrolled further and found another feature: interior audio recording. It too was active, configured to capture all conversations inside the car and transmit them to the same account. Oh my God, Lia whispered, her voice barely audible over the engine's hum. The implications hit her like a freight train. Margaret wasn't just giving her a car, she was installing a surveillance system to monitor Lia's every move and word. Her hands shook as she opened the glove compartment, hoping for some clue to explain this betrayal. Inside, she found the car's manual and a folder of documents. Flipping through the paperwork, she noticed the vehicle identification number, VIN. On impulse, she pulled out her phone and navigated to an online vehicle history service. After entering the VIN and paying a small fee, she downloaded the report. What she read made her blood run cold. The Porsche wasn't new. It had been sold 8 months ago and had a documented accident history, a high-speed collision that damaged the front end. The repairs, while extensive, were incomplete, with critical engine components left in subpar condition. Forum posts she found online warned that similar issues could cause sudden engine failure, especially during high-speed or long-distance driving. The report's final note was chilling: potential safety hazard for extended use. Lia's mind raced. Margaret had presented the car as a brand-new, custom-ordered gift, but it was a used vehicle with a dangerous flaw. Worse, the tracking and recording features suggested a level of control that bordered on obsession. Was this a deliberate attempt to endanger her? Or was it simply another of Margaret's power plays, meant to intimidate and control? Either way, the truth was undeniable. This gift was no act of generosity. It was a trap. She turned off the engine, the silence in the garage deafening. Stepping out of the car, Lia leaned against its frame, the cool metal grounding her as she processed the betrayal. Her first instinct was to confront Ethan, but she hesitated. He loved his mother deeply, and shattering that trust would wound him. Yet keeping the secret could put them both at risk, not just from the car's mechanical flaws, but from Margaret's invasive surveillance. Back in the apartment, Lia sat at her desk, staring at the city lights. She saved screenshots of the tracking and recording settings, downloaded the vehicle history report, and bookmarked the forum posts. Evidence was her shield, but it felt like a double-edged sword. Telling Ethan would mean dismantling his image of his mother, and possibly their family. But staying silent wasn't an option. The Porsche, gleaming in the garage below, was no longer just a car, it was a ticking time bomb, and Lia was determined to defuse it before it could destroy her life. Lia Carter sat on the edge of the sofa in their Chicago apartment, her fingers nervously tracing the seam of a throw pillow. The city lights glittered beyond the windows, but the warmth of the evening was overshadowed by the cold weight of the truth she'd uncovered about the Porsche Cayenne. At 33, Lia was no stranger to tough decisions. Her career as a graphic designer demanded resilience, but this was different. The evidence of Margaret Wright's betrayal, meticulously gathered on her phone, felt like a grenade waiting to be unpinned. Telling Ethan, her 35-year-old husband, would mean shattering his trust in his mother, a woman he adored despite her controlling nature. Ethan returned home late, his suit jacket slung over one shoulder, his dark hair slightly mussed from a long day. "Hey, love," he said, dropping his keys on the counter. "You okay? You look tense." Lia took a deep breath, her green eyes meeting his. "We need to talk, Ethan. It's about the car." He frowned, settling beside her. "The Porsche? You still haven't driven it. What's going on?" "It's not what you think," Lia said, her voice steady but soft. She pulled out her phone and opened the vehicle history report. "This car isn't new. It was in a serious accident 8 months ago. The engine's faulty, dangerous, even. And that's not all." She swiped to the screenshots of the navigation settings. "There's a tracking system and a recording device installed. They're set to send everything, our locations, our conversations to your mom's phone." Ethan's face paled as he took the phone, his eyes scanning the evidence. This can't be right," he stammered. "Mom said it was custom ordered. Why would she?" His voice trailed off, disbelief warring with the undeniable facts before him. "I know how much you love her," Lia said, placing a hand on his arm. "But this isn't a mistake. She lied about the car, and she's spying on us. I don't know why, but we can't ignore this." Ethan's jaw tightened, his gaze fixed on the floor. Lia could see the storm brewing inside him, love for his mother clashing with the sting of betrayal. "I need to see it for myself," he said finally, his voice low. "Let's go to the garage." In the dim light of the parking garage, Lia watched as Ethan started the Porsche. The faint vibration and irregular hum of the engine were unmistakable now. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles whitening as he felt the subtle tremors. "This isn't normal," he muttered, his voice thick with realization. He opened the navigation system, and there it was, Margaret Wright, her name glaring from the screen alongside the active tracking and recording settings. Ethan turned off the engine, the silence heavy. "How could she do this?" he whispered, more to himself than to Lia. "She could have hurt you. Hurt us." Lia's heart ached for him. She reached for his hand, her touch grounding. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I didn't want to believe it either." He shook his head, anger creeping into his voice. "We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. I'm taking this to a mechanic, someone we can trust." The next morning, they drove the Porsche to Lakeview Auto, a reputable independent shop recommended by a friend. Tom Kelly, a grizzled mechanic with decades of experience, greeted them with a firm handshake. "What's the trouble?" he asked, eyeing the car with professional curiosity. "The engine feels off," Lia explained. "And we need to confirm if it's really new, like we were told." Tom raised an eyebrow but nodded, wasting no time. "Let's run a full diagnostic." As they waited in the shop's small office, sipping bitter coffee, Ethan was quiet, his gaze distant. Lia reached for his hand. "I know this is hard," she said softly, "but we're in this together. I can't believe she'd go this far," he said, his voice raw. "She's my mom, Lia. I thought she was overprotective, not this." An hour later, Tom returned, his expression grim. He laid a diagnostic report on the table. "This car's no spring chicken," he said. "It's at least 8 months old, with a major accident in its past. The engine's in bad shape, repaired, but not properly. Critical components are aftermarket, not up to spec. Drive this on the highway, and you're risking a catastrophic failure." Lia's stomach dropped, though she'd braced for this. Ethan leaned forward, his voice tight. "And the electronics?" Tom produced another sheet. You've got a sophisticated surveillance setup, tracking and audio recording, wired into the navigation system. This isn't standard. Someone had it custom installed. Ethan's face hardened, a mix of fury and heartbreak. Can you put this in writing? Everything you found? Already done, Tom said, handing over the report. I'd keep this car off the road until you sort this out. It's not safe. Back in their apartment, Ethan paced, the report clutched in his hand. Lia watched him, her own resolve strengthening. What do we do now? She asked. We confront her, Ethan said, his voice firm but trembling. But not yet. We need to be smart about this. If she did this on purpose, he paused, swallowing hard. We'll need more than just this report. We need a plan. Lia nodded, her mind racing. Confronting Margaret would be a battle, one that could tear their family apart. But the alternative, living under her surveillance, driving a death trap, was unthinkable. Let's talk to a lawyer, she suggested. We need to protect ourselves, legally. No accusations until we're ready. Ethan stopped pacing and met her gaze, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. You're right. We do this the right way. He pulled her into a hug, his embrace fierce. I'm sorry you're caught in this, Lia, but I'm with you. All the way. As they stood together, the city sprawling beyond their windows, Lia felt a surge of determination. Margaret's gift had been a calculated move, but Lia wasn't powerless. She'd uncovered the truth, and now, with Ethan by her side, she'd fight for justice, not with vengeance, but with the law as her weapon. The road ahead would be fraught, but for the first time, Lia felt ready to face it. The Chicago skyline glowed under a soft autumn sunset, casting a warm hue over Lia and Ethan Carter's high-rise apartment. Inside, the tension that had gripped their lives for weeks was beginning to ease, replaced by a cautious hope. Lia, now 33, sat at their dining table, her auburn hair pulled into a loose bun, reviewing a stack of legal documents. Ethan, 35, stood by the window, his dark eyes fixed on the city below, the weight of his mother's betrayal still etched into his features. The black Porsche Cayenne, once a symbol of Margaret Wright's control, was gone, impounded as evidence in a case that would redefine their family. After the mechanic's damning report confirmed the car's dangerous condition and surveillance setup, Lia and Ethan had acted swiftly. They hired a lawyer, Sarah Nguyen, a sharp-minded attorney known for her tenacity in fraud cases. Sarah reviewed their evidence, the vehicle history report, screenshots of the tracking and recording settings, and Tom Kelly's diagnostic report, and built an airtight case. This is fraud, plain and simple, she'd said. And the surveillance violates Illinois privacy laws. We'll make sure Margaret faces consequences. Lia had insisted on a lawful approach. Revenge tempted her, Margaret's actions had endangered her life and violated their trust, but justice, not vengeance, was the path forward. Ethan, torn between his love for his mother and his loyalty to Lia, agreed. I want answers, he'd said, his voice raw. But I want them the right way. They arranged a meeting with Margaret at their apartment, a neutral ground where Sarah could mediate. When the doorbell rang, Lia's pulse quickened. Ethan opened the door, and Margaret stepped inside, her silver blonde hair impeccable, her ivory coat pristine. At 60, she exuded defiance, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of unease as they landed on Sarah. Ethan, Lia, Margaret said, her voice smooth but strained. What's this about? I thought we were discussing your birthday gift. Sit down, Mom, Ethan said, his tone cold. He gestured to the table, where the evidence was neatly arranged. Sarah took the lead, her presence calm but commanding. Mrs. Wright, we have evidence that the Porsche you gave Lia was not new, as you claimed, Sarah began. It was a used vehicle with a documented accident history and faulty engine repairs that posed a serious safety risk. Additionally, you installed tracking and recording devices without consent, violating state privacy laws. Margaret's composure cracked, her lips tightening. This is absurd, she snapped. I bought that car from a reputable dealer. If there's an issue, it's their fault. Ethan slid the diagnostic report across the table. Stop, Mom. The car's 8 months old, with a crash in its past. You knew. And the surveillance? Your name's all over it. Margaret's eyes darted to the documents, then back to Ethan. For a moment, Lia thought she'd deny it again, but the weight of the evidence was crushing. I only wanted to protect you, Margaret said, her voice low, almost pleading. Lia's not right for you, Ethan. She's ambitious, unpredictable. I thought if I could keep an eye on her, I'd keep you safe. Safe. Lia's voice trembled with restrained anger. You gave me a car that could have killed me. You recorded our private conversations. That's not protection, it's obsession. Margaret's gaze hardened. You'll never be good enough for my son, she spat. I did what any mother would. Ethan stood, his hands clenched. No, Mom. You crossed a line. You lied, you endangered Lia, and you betrayed me. This ends now. Sarah interjected, her tone firm. Mrs. Wright, we filed a police report for fraud and privacy violations. You can cooperate, or you'll face a lawsuit and potential criminal charges. Margaret's face drained of color. She rose, clutching her purse, and shot a final glare at Lia. You've turned my son against me, she hissed. You'll regret this. Goodbye, Mom, Ethan said, his voice steady but heavy with grief. He opened the door, and Margaret left without another word. The legal process moved swiftly. The police investigation confirmed the fraud. Margaret had purchased the used Porsche from a shady dealer, knowing its history, and paid for the surveillance installation. She was charged with fraud and invasion of privacy. At a hearing, the judge ordered her to pay restitution for the car's value and legal fees, a public humiliation that shattered her carefully curated reputation. Margaret retreated from Chicago's social scene, her influence diminished. Ethan struggled with the fallout. He began therapy to unpack his mother's control, a painful but necessary step. Lia supported him, her love unwavering despite the strain. They set boundaries. Margaret was allowed minimal contact, monitored through their lawyer, ensuring she could no longer manipulate their lives. A year later, Lia and Ethan stood on the porch of their new home in Evanston, a charming suburb north of Chicago. The house, with its white picket fence and blooming garden, marked a fresh start. Lia, now pregnant with their first child, rested a hand on her rounded belly, her green eyes sparkling as she watched Ethan grill burgers for a small housewarming party. More lemonade? Ethan asked, his smile warm as he handed her a glass. Thanks, Lia said, her fingers brushing his. She felt their daughter kick, a reminder of the new life they were building. She's feisty today. Just like her mom, Ethan teased, his hand resting on her belly. Their laughter mingled with the chatter of friends, the scent of grilled food, and the soft hum of summer. The past year had been a crucible. Margaret's betrayal had tested their strength, but it had also forged a deeper bond. Ethan's therapy had helped him reclaim his autonomy, and Lia's courage in seeking justice had empowered them both. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Lia leaned against Ethan. We made it, she said softly. Together, he replied, kissing her forehead. The future wasn't without challenges. Margaret's shadow lingered, a faint echo of the past. But Lia and Ethan faced it with resilience, their love a beacon guiding them forward. Their daughter, due in 2 months, symbolized hope, a promise of joy to come. As the stars emerged, Lia felt a quiet certainty. They had won, not just against Margaret, but for the life they deserved.